Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. Today's video is going to be about the time that a manifestation takes to pan out and come into the 3D. And I'm going to tie that with some of Neville's teachings and explain and clarify what they are about and what you can expect in terms of how long your manifestation might take to come into your 3D. So this is what's going to be in today's video. Stay tuned. So one of you guys asked me a question recently about Neville's teachings and about what he said, what he taught about how long a manifestation takes to come into the 3D. And the person writing the comment was quite confused because they said, Neville said at some point that every manifestation has its own appointed time, so it comes at its own perfect time. But then somewhere else, he says that the naturalness you feel about your desire and about your manifestation directly influences the time it takes for it to appear in the 3D. And yet in another teaching, he said that you can determine the time that your manifestation takes. So the person quite justifiably was wondering, so which one of these is true? Which is it? Is it that each manifestation has its own appointed time? Is it that when you feel natural about a desire, it manifests much faster? Or is it that we ourselves can actually determine when our desire manifests and how long it takes to manifest? So I thought this was a great question and a great opportunity to explain these teachings a little better, clarify them, and actually show you guys that they're not as contradictory as they might seem. So the answer to the question, which one is it? I'm going to say, it's all of the above. All of the above, all of these things that Neville said are true. And I'm going to explain that and give you examples of why all of the above are actually true and why these teachings do not actually contradict each other. So let's start with the first assumption. What Neville said, that each manifestation has its own appointed time, and so it's going to come at the perfect time, when it's ready and when it's ripe. This is very true, and it actually applies quite literally, in the literal sense of the word, to a whole bunch of manifestations. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're manifesting having a baby. If you are going to go through a human pregnancy, or if your woman is going to go through a human pregnancy, that is going to take 9 months, or at least more or less, plus or minus a few weeks. But it's not going to be, for example, 3 or 4 months, because then the baby is not viable and cannot survive. And it cannot be, say, 11 or 12 months, because that's not how long a human pregnancy lasts. So the appointed time for a human baby to be born is more or less 9 months. Let's say you're manifesting going to the concert of your favorite artist or your favorite band, and that's sometime in the summer. The time when it manifests is the exact time at which the concert is scheduled to take place. If you're manifesting this in the fall or in the winter, you're going to have to wait until the following summer to get to that concert and see your favorite artist and have your manifestation come true. If you're planting a tree, for example, then it's going to blossom at the right time, at the time when it's naturally supposed to blossom. So you see, for all these manifestations and a whole bunch of others, the appointed time, the perfect time, is actually very, very true and very, very literal. And I believe when Neville gave that teaching, he was being very, very literal. When he said everything has its appointed time, he was literally talking about physical time, natural time, 3D time. Now the second teaching, which is also very true, and in my experience it applies very, very much to conscious manifesting, because it is very, very true, I can tell you from experience, as soon as you start feeling natural about your desire, and the more natural you feel about your desire, the more matter of fact it feels within you, the faster it manifests, the faster you tend to see movement. That is also a very accurate teaching that applies to a whole host of manifestations. And this is why I insist so much in all my videos, and I tell you guys over and over and over again that you need to be getting into a state where you start feeling natural about your desire. This is exactly the reason I persist in that so much and I repeat it so much, because in my experience, as you start feeling natural about your desire, as it starts feeling matter-of-factly, as it starts feeling real, as you're starting to convince yourself that your desire is yours, that it is coming, that it is already done, that tends to create fast movement, sometimes even very fast movement, and it's highly, highly likely that you're going to see your manifestation much, much faster. So Neville was totally on point with this when he said that the time your manifestation takes is directly proportionate to the naturalness which you feel inside. So because this applies to the vast majority of manifestations, including those that might need bridges to form in the 3D, it really, really is in your interest to keep practicing your state of the wish fulfilled over and over and over and over again until it starts feeling natural within you. And once that happens, you are going to see what I mean. You are going to start seeing movement so much faster. You are going to see things happening so much faster. Things are going to kick into gear and you are going to be amazed. Now, the third teaching I referenced, where Neville again talked about time, where he said that you can decide and dictate how long your manifestation takes for you. And I believe he gave in that same teaching, in that same lecture, the example of himself, where he said that for me, I've now accepted that I can create and manifest anything in 3 days. If I can maintain this state for 3 days, then it manifests for me. I've made that an assumption for myself. I've made that a rule for myself, and that's how it keeps happening. This can also be true, and it becomes more and more true the more advanced you become in manifesting. You are going to notice that things keep coming faster and faster and easier and more effortlessly. So when Neville taught that, he was teaching from his perspective as an advanced manifestor, as an advanced practitioner of the law, and knowing and having practiced it for years and having gained the experience that he did over years and decades of applying the law, he was now in a position to decide and determine that his manifestations were always going to take 3 days or less. And if you have that kind of confidence in your inner power and in the law, if you have that kind of faith, if you have that kind of boldness to assume that it's going to be very immediate for you, very fast for you, then that's absolutely right as well, that it can take a very, very short amount of time. It can be 3 days, it can be 24 hours, or it can be less. Obviously, we live in a 3D world. We do have some 3D limitations. For example, the example I gave before about having a baby, that is not going to take 3 days. But you can still apply that to a big majority of your manifestations, and you can see that come true. So if you have the boldness, if you have the confidence, if you have the inner knowing that you can determine the time your manifestations take, or at least, let's say, the vast majority of your manifestations take, then that is also accurate. There is no reason why you cannot determine that my manifestation is going to appear within 24 hours, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks. It doesn't take me longer than a month, etc., etc. It all depends on your degree of confidence, on how empowered you feel within, on how much faith you have in the law and in your inner power, and you can absolutely manifest very, very fast. So as you see, and as I've just explained, these teachings are complementary rather than contradictory. They're all accurate in their own way, they're all accurate for their own reasons, and Neville was absolutely correct and absolutely spot on in all three of them. I always like to say, focus on your state, focus on your desired story, focus on your desired reality, and the rest is going to come. And the more you focus on that and the more natural you feel about that, the faster it's going to come. And that is true for the vast majority of desires and the vast majority of manifestations. And if you feel super bold and you feel like deciding that your manifestation is going to take X time, or that all your manifestations don't take longer than X amount of time, whatever the amount of time you decide, then feel free to do that and see how it works for you. Be bold, declare it, decide it, and go for it. So I hope this was helpful to give you guys some answers, to clarify these teachings, to explain why they're all accurate and why they're actually complementary to each other as opposed to contradictory. And I hope that you now have much more clarity over this. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.